in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Bonus scoop time. Zolgad, Darren Doogie Wolfson, Channel 5 Eyewitness News and Scoop fame, of course, for Score North. Executive producer Declan Goff. Plenty to get to on this Tuesday, but the National Football League draft, Darren, is right around the corner. So let's start there. What can you tell us about what is going on in Eagan with the Vikings as the draft approaches?
Well, they still had some visitors early this week. So, Judd, the last day that draft-eligible prospects can make visits is Wednesday. So before Wednesday, we're sitting here at, 11:08 on Tuesday morning, the 19th of April. The Vikings brought in former Hopkins High School star, former Gophers star pass rusher, Boye Mafe. They also brought in Miami edge rusher, Zach McLeod. So, you think about the previous regime, Rick Spielman and company. It was usually the first couple days of April. They would bring in all the prospects at once. This new regime, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and company, they are spreading out the visits to some extent. They had a bunch that first week of April, but still, you see here with at least 2 guys in this week, and if I hear of more, I certainly will put the word out. But I can tell you, 2 visitors this week before visits expire on Wednesday, Mafe and McLeod.
Are you getting any steam? And we've discussed this the past, I think, 2 bonus scoops episodes, but are you getting any different steam, I should say, about where the Vikings might be going with the 12th overall pick in the first round?
Well, I was curious on Kyle Hamilton, the safety from Notre Dame. I mean, you watch him play, just watch the tape. That is a top 5 prospect. Like, you can't convince me otherwise. That guy has superstar written all over him, but you start to see more and more mocks. Now, I don't know how accurate a lot of these mocks are going to be, especially this year. There is so much uncertainty. But I keep seeing more and more mocks, Judd, that have Kyle Hamilton on the board at pick 12.
Yes.
So I started to investigate Hamilton while in quarantine the last few days. I can tell you his camp firmly believes with a hammer that he is not going to be on the board at pick 12. My own personal feeling, maybe it's a 10 to 15% chance. What I can't tell you, Judd, is if he is staring them in the face, not necessarily a position of need, although they are going to take a safety at some point. They've done a number of visits with safeties. Like, they're not just handing Cam Bynum a starting job. We wonder about Harrison Smith beyond 2022. But typically you don't use a first-round pick on a safety. So I don't know what Kwesi would do. I wish I had the answer. I don't have. I'd love to tell you I have exactly how the Vikings have their board stacked. Unfortunately, I don't. So what I don't know, Judd, for sure is, would the Vikings pull the trigger on Hamilton if he is there at 12? I tend to think they go safety later in the draft. I think Kwesi, with that analytical background, he realizes the value in the first round. You either go pass rusher, cornerback, wide receiver. Could you go left tackle if you needed one? Sure, but the Vikings don't need a left tackle. Like, those are the premium positions, quarterback too, but I don't see this being the year the Vikings go quarterback at pick 12. So I think with Kwesi's analytical background, I think it's one of 3 positions. I really do. Pass rusher, cornerback, or wide receiver.
So Hamilton's potential fall, I think, is based on what you just said, which is he's a top 5 prospect, but he does not play a premium position. And so I buy the fact that as steam circulates around the league about prospects and what teams might do, that he's falling. Here's my question, though. If he's there at 12, some team might say, oh my God, Kyle Hamilton's still there. Whoa, boy, plug him in for 10 years. Would that position the Vikings really well to trade that pick and get potential maximum return? Because here's the thing. in my opinion, we grew tired of Rick trading back because it almost got to be his reputation, right? And it was, trader Rick, and it almost got too cute. Like, I can always find more talent if I just have more picks. If Kwesi does this, it's going to probably be done with a different tact. And so I don't think that we should immediately sour on the fact that he might trade back from 12. But would Hamilton be almost like the perfect trigger guy to bail off that pick and maximize the return because some team thinks, oh my God, this guy's still there. We'd love him.
Well, it could be him. And if they do move back, and this is something we first discussed, was it last Tuesday, the previous Thursday? We talked about this going back a week or two, and it's starting to gain some steam that I had heard that the Vikings were very open-minded to moving backwards. So could that be the scenario? Could it be one of the quarterbacks sitting there? I think I said last Thursday, write that down. Now, I might look like an idiot because, heck, Malik Willis just visited the Lions. Could the Lions pull the trigger at pick 2 on Willis? But I had to write that down sometime in the last week that I said I think both quarterbacks, Pickett and Willis, are going to be on the board at pick 12. Then I do think Carolina ends up with a quarterback in the first round, but I think they move backwards. That maybe somebody moves up for one of those offensive linemen at pick 6. But yeah, whether it's a quarterback, whether maybe it's the Northern Iowa offensive lineman Penning, that some team becomes desperate for a tackle, or could it be Kyle Hamilton? Yes, I think those are all distinct possibilities that would enable the Vikings to move backwards. And if they move backwards, to me, Judd, that would also open up the possibility of them going interior defensive lineman. Like, I don't want to rule that out. Like, I'd be surprised if they went interior defensive lineman, one of the Georgia kids at pick 12. Not overly surprised. I'd be mildly surprised if they went with Davis or Wyatt at pick 12. But you move backwards, even if it's to 16, like at that point, you absolutely could go interior defensive line as well.
So I don't think that the Vikings are going to take a safety. I think that they would go backwards and not take a safety if Hamilton is still there. I think as far as positions go, I think the Vikings, I think you're exactly right. I think they're open-minded to where this goes. So, like, I don't think they picked a guy where I think they picked a list of guys. I think defensive tackle, you're probably right. Defensive end, wide receiver, which I think you can't dismiss still. And again, what we don't know is the plan at TCO might be we can flat out outscore teams. Like if we get a third guy, we can go track meet and outscore teams. But I think that there are several different permeations of directions that this team could go. One is going backwards, but I do think you are correct in saying that defensive tackle or defensive end at some point would not shock me. Not at all.
But it also might be what like 90% of the mock drafts have, that if Derek Stingley Jr. is sitting there at pick 12, coming off a successful pro day, considering that his former position coach in Baton Rouge is now back, Jones, with the Vikings, that the Vikings have more a book on Stingley Jr. than anyone, that if he makes it to pick 12, that you just sit there and you take him. One thing I had a scout bring up to me, Judd, that I guess I didn't realize, is Stingley Jr. is only 20 years old. So, like, I bring up the name Maffei, and, hey, character is A+. I'm biased. I started doing stuff on that kid when he was at Hopkins, right? So I have a relationship that goes back to pre his Gophers days. So I'm rooting heavily for Maffei. But you look at Maffei, he is 24 years old. Stingley Jr., 20 years old. You know, so you think about upside. Now, I get it. There hasn't been much in terms of film for Stingley Jr. You know, we have to go back to 2019. Like 2020, 2021, no. But, like, he's got all the physical traits, and he has youth on his side. So something to keep in mind. If you can draft a 20-year-old, it might be hard to pass on a guy that young.
So I've read conflicting things about Stingley too, Dukes. So he's been hurt the last couple of years, but did they feel that he tried to get back? Because I've read very conflicting things about the fact that after what was a really good freshman year, that he missed substantial time and that there was some feeling that he didn't exactly bust his hump to come back. Is character a concern here, or is it what you're saying, which is he's 20, there's some maturing to do, but he's such an athletic talent that once he does start to mature, he's going to be too good to bypass?
What I've heard, Judd, is the latter. I have not heard of any character red flags, but like I can't harp on this point enough. The Vikings have more a book on that kid than anyone because of their DB's coach that was in Baton Rouge. So the Vikings have the book on the kid. So they would know if there are any concerns, they would know. I'm just telling you, me personally, I've not heard of any of those concerns.
Okay. So before we go to Wolves, do you have any more Vikings speculation to give us?
Well, I did hear that Danielle Hunter has thoroughly enjoyed building a relationship with Kevin O'Connell. That those two have bonded at a high level. That Danielle is really enjoying himself right now. Really enjoys the idea of playing in a 3-4. I said that many, many weeks ago.
Yeah.
I continue to hear that. And there was legit trade interest. Like, you heard about Buffalo. Did you hear it all about Cleveland? Even though they have Myles Garrett.
I was sure Buffalo.
That Andrew Berry, that Kevin Stefanski had legit trade interest in Danielle Hunter. But my understanding is the Vikings, while listening, and it wasn't just Cleveland. I heard a couple other AFC teams as well kick the tires. I don't sense the Vikings ever came like super close to moving Danielle. Certainly listened. Heck, they listened on Cousins, right? I mean, they listened on a number of guys, but I don't get the sense that Kwesi ever came really close to saying, okay, Danielle, see you later.
How much do you think, Doogie, that, trying to think of the right way to word this, an overall contentment with this team, with Mike being gone, is going to change things too? Like, I can't decide. I personally would have made changes that they didn't make. But that being said, like, we are, and I can't decide if this is reconstructing history or if this is true. It feels like Mike has now been painted to be the big bad guy so much.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Right. But I mean, how much do you think the locker room dynamic and this team is going to have a different feeling simply by subtracting a guy who I think by the end was pretty miserable?
Well, I'll even tell you. So I caught up. It just matched up schedule-wise for me to catch up yesterday, Monday, with Tyler Conklin, former Vikings tight end, now enjoying himself with the New York Jets. Unprompted, because I brought up, it's interesting that the Vikings are running this thing back. Sure, you're not here. There's been some change, but right. I told Tyler I expected a bit more change with the regime change. And he said, he brought up the word collaboration. He brought up, pretty much this kumbaya feeling that didn't exist previously. And it was more an open-ended inquiry from me to him just about the Vikings' chances here in 2022. He then took it somewhat that direction. Not fully, but that to me was interesting. I can tell you that in talking with Michael Pierce a couple weeks ago, I sensed a theme along those lines. You talk to more people on background, you certainly sense that. I feel bad for Zim. I do.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even think his son landed a job, right? So I think Adam is still unemployed. Like, as
far as I know.
Zim is so used to coaching. Zim had a lot of success here.
Yeah.
Zim saw doom and gloom going back to the combine, February of 2018. He predicted his demise, and now he is unemployed, and his son is unemployed, and he's not used to having nothing to do this time of the year, and he hears all the chatter. I promise you that. He does. So I feel bad for Zim in many ways. But yes, I don't think they're outwardly painting that picture, but reading between the lines, it's clear as day, at least to me, Judd, that they are painting this that Zim had a lot to do with the failures of the last 2 years in particular, that bringing in Kevin with many of these same players is going to result in more wins and a much more festive atmosphere.
Yeah, that's what I feel too. And I guess my question now is, it feels like it's deflecting attention away from Kirk. And I guess I'm just curious if that is fair or not. We're going to find out now because the pressure is squarely on Kirk. But I'm just curious about that. Look, I agree that Mike by 2021 had lost his fastball. It felt like he was tired and burned out to a large extent. I also feel like now there's too much being dumped on Mike,
Yes.
and we're not looking at the players. And most importantly, and this is what concerns me a bit, the players aren't looking at themselves. Like there's an absolution that I don't like. Because like I'd like to see more, hey, you know what? We all screwed up last year. And I feel like Kwesi and KOC have paved a path for the players to play the blame game. And that's why I wanted changes, because ordinarily when that takes place, as soon as things start to go bad again, what happens? The players start to point the fingers. So that's what and I'm with you. Mike was miserable, but I actually do feel some empathy towards Mike because I think the blame game is very easy to play.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard not to. Now, all that being said, Judd, can I see them rebounding and winning double-digit games? I think it's a more favorable schedule this year.
Yep.
And I get it, the roster will still change with the draft. Other teams' rosters will change, heck, some significantly. But for the most part, the core of these rosters is in place. Can I see the Vikings getting to 10 wins, maybe even 11 this year? I can. I still wonder ultimately about the ceiling come January, how deep a run they can make in the postseason. But I can see this being a much better in terms of wins and losses regular season. I'll give you one more note. There is some buzz about the Vikings landing a game in London. The schedule should be out by second week of May or so, maybe even first week of May, sometime in the next month. I can't remember. It's the Saints game is the buzz. Is the Saints game a road game or a home game? I don't know. Maybe Declan can look that up real quick.
It's a road game. Road game.
So it's a Saints game. Okay.
Just some buzz.
Okay.
Not strong buzz, but a little bit of buzz. Just something to keep an eye on. That there's been a little bit of buzz. Somebody planted that with me. So, hey, why not? Maybe it's better suited for Thursday, reckless speculation Thursday. But you asked me if I had anything else with the Vikings. It came to mind. So I'll investigate further, but maybe keep an eye on the potential of the Vikings landing a game in London.
Timberwolves scoopage, what you got for us?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's much scoopage outside of seeing that Zach Zarba is the crew chief for tonight's game 2. The Wolves in the regular season 3-0 in games that Zarba worked. He's a really good official. Like, to me, you don't have Ed Malloy tonight. You don't have Scott Foster. It's a win. Right now, Memphis might look at it and say, hey, it's a win for us. I'm more curious just to see what strategic changes take place. The chess match, Taylor Jenkins, Chris Finch. Not necessarily scoopage. Now, I'd be surprised if Taurean Prince doesn't play tonight. He's listed as questionable. The knee is acting up. The knee kept him out 1 week ago. Tonight, the playing game against the Clippers. But I haven't chased an update as of this morning. But I'm just telling you, I'd be surprised if he can't give it a go. But I'm more curious to see what changes take place. The point spread surprises me again. I told you guys last Thursday the game 1 point spread was very baffling to me. It's not as baffling tonight, but if I had to lean one way or the other, I'd take the Wolves and all those points again. 7 points. Maybe it's down to 6.5 at this point, but like that to me is a lot of points. But can I see Memphis winning? I can, but that's okay. To me is about house money, right? The Wolves now have home court advantage in this series. The Wolves have proven that Target Center is a big-time home court advantage. Hold serve at home, win Thursday, win Saturday, win Game 6, you win the series. So I'm okay if the Wolves lose tonight. Like, I don't have, or if I was a Wolves fan, I wouldn't have all this, like, nervousness about me. Maybe some anxiousness, but, like, enjoy tonight. Embrace this 1-0 lead.
On Finch, Doogie, among his strengths, where would you put his in-game coaching, adjustments, things like that? Because you're right, in a playoff series, that becomes an incredibly important thing. Like for all fans who are like, well, do coaches, what do coaches do? I think where they make their money is playoff time. Where would you put Finch as far as his adjustments, as far as his in-game moves, as far as the tactical stuff goes?
I would say good. Not top 5 in the league, but he's not, bottom half in my mind. He's upper half. Like, to me, here's how I judge a coach in game. Okay, rotations. When are you making substitutions? Who are you subbing for? Out of timeout plays. How often are you getting a good look? I'm not necessarily looking at a make. I mean, you can generate a good look, out of a timeout on a play. And if the guy misses it, he misses it. But I can still say, hey, that was a good design of a play, right? Sure. So, I think Finch is pretty strong in that area. Not quite, Eric Spoelstra, Quinn Snyder, but to me, he's good. In fact, actually, Jason Kidd is a really good out of timeout coach. And then challenges. I thought Finch blew his challenge in game 1. That to me was an idiotic challenge. That didn't make sense to me. There's been other instances this season where I'm like, why are you challenging that? Who is giving you that advice? But overall, Chris Finch, really good coach. And this was always Gerson's guy. This was Gerson's guy when he hired Ryan Saunders. Like, there was that steam then. I remember bringing up his name. Right? So it was always when not if Chris Finch would get an opportunity. He was highly thought of, and he's run with this opportunity. Now he gets the nice contract extension, driven in large part by Mark Lowry, by Alex Rodriguez, even though he had 1 full year left on his deal, plus a team option. They rip that up. They give him the nice new contract extension and a raise. And to me, Judd, he earned it. He is a good coach.
The 2 worst current challenge guys in this town, as far as players asking for challenges, Miguel Sano would review every single play, including his own foul balls if he could. And I love him, but Pat Beverly. Pat Beverly, if I was Finchy and I ever got the old replay sign from Pat Bev, I'd be like, we ain't doing it then. He wants to challenge every call that goes against him. Every single one. It drives me nuts. These challenges are gold. They're bleeping gold. And those 2 guys who are vastly different competitors drive me crazy with their insistence on challenges.
Well, that's plenty fair. Now, look at the Taylor Jenkins challenge in game 1. That was also moronic, idiotic. Oh, by the way, another really good coach, right? So It's not unique to here. But yeah, this doesn't do much for the audio folks. But for those watching on YouTube, yeah, it's the curling of the finger. It's Pat Beverly doing that every single time.
The home run sign in baseball.
That he's called for a foul, right? He always wants it reviewed. So yeah, and yeah, you're right about Miguel Sano as well. Yeah.
Dawson Garcia, Marquette, we lost him. North Carolina, we lost him. 3rd time is the charm, coming home to play for Ben Johnson.
He is. I caught up with Dawson last night for about 10 minutes. It's pretty clear to me that, well, if you go back 5 days ago when he put out his statement on social media about entering the portal, wanting to be close to home, like, let's just say these wheels have been in motion for a bit. And where else would he get the waiver from the NCAA to play immediately? Now, that being said, he has a great relationship with Ben Johnson. The family, the Garcia family, thinks the world of Ben Johnson. So that matters here. But I really do believe, Judd, if Declan Goff was the Gophers coach, Dawson Garcia was coming home. I really do. Just based on immediate eligibility. But I'm telling you, he loves Ben. The family loves Ben. He was on campus late last week. He was on campus again on Monday. It is now a done deal. And I fully expect the NCAA to grant that waiver. Dawson told me he actually lost a couple really close people to him over the last handful of months. COVID almost got his dad as well. Like, his dad was on the cusp of death. Thankfully, Dave is doing okay now. But Dawson's dad, at one point, it was really, really bad. And so he wants to be close to his family. So, hey, this is a home run get, Judd. This is a guy that last May took part in the G League pre-draft showcase. There were NBA scouts that said, because a couple guys in that G League showcase were awarded combine spots, regular NBA draft combine spots, there were some scouts going to bat for Garcia, that they felt like he played so well in the G League showcase that he should have been one of the guys that got a combine invite. So, like, he played really well in Chicago last May against good competition. If you go back early last season, games against Michigan, Purdue, for North Carolina, Dawson was solid, especially against Purdue. You go back and watch some of those Marquette games, he was really good. McDonald's All-American. Like, let's not forget that. Do you know how hard it is to become a McDonald's All-American? So make no mistake about this. This is an enormous ad for Ben Johnson. He's not done either. They have a kid on campus today from Elon, a guard, a transfer. His name is Hunter McIntosh. They also had Josiah Strong on campus yesterday. He's a Champlain Park High School kid. He's leaving Illinois State. The Gophers did offer him. So can I see him staying home? I can. Now, I've been asked a lot about Kerwin Walton Jr., the former Hopkins High School star. He's stuck in Chapel Hill. Played a little bit early in the year. Then North Carolina goes on its run. He was relegated to the bench. Can I see him eventually entering the portal? I can. Do I see him coming home? Not necessarily.
Okay. Crazy question. With the portal possibilities here, how good can the Gophers be after at least in conference play being pretty much a disaster this past season?
Well, okay, you have your starting forwards, or maybe you play Dawson at the 5, but you've got Garcia as a starter. You've got Jamison Battle as a starter. You've got Parker Fox. So what you'll probably end up doing is play those 3 at the 3, 4, and 5. Have Garcia guard for the most part, opposition 5s. If they run into a Kofi Coburn type player, then Trayton Thompson gets more minutes. But I think you've got your 3, 4, and 5 locked in. The key now is to find a starting point guard. So is it the kid from Elon? Is it the kid from Clemson, Nick Honor, that they have interest in? That is probably more so than just gaining this commitment from Josiah Strong, that if he comes, he's probably your starting 2-man. But that they really need a point guard, a lead guard. Maybe not your traditional point guard. You think about the way they played last year. Peyton Willis isn't necessarily your traditional point guard, but somebody that can handle the ball, certainly when the shot clock is winding down, create his own shot. So that is the number one goal for Ben Johnson right now. How competitive can they be? The Big Ten is going to be really good again, but can I see them being upper half of the Big Ten team? Can I see them not being the 14 seed in the Big Ten tournament next year? 100%. I'm telling you, Dawson Garcia is one heck of a talent. And Jamison Battle, I'll even tell you this, Judd. I know 2 NBA scouts that tell me that he has a chance. Like, I'm not suggesting he's even draftable at this point, but that Jamison Battle could take the path of an Amir Coffey, that he has a chance to play in the NBA. So to me, the Gophers have 2 guys, Garcia and Battle. Now, we can debate Battle. Some people listening right now will be like, you're nuts. I'm just the messenger. I know 2 people with strong NBA ties that tell me Jamison Battle at least has a chance. So when you have 2 guys like that, 2 scorers like that, the Gophers should win their fair share of games.
Clean out the scoop bag, sir, before we finish up.
Well, it's also a busy scouting time for the Wolves. So their assistant GM, Gianluca Pascucci, was at the Portsmouth pre-draft invitational. Peyton Willis actually played well out there. Wasn't one of the MVPs out in Virginia, but played well. So the Wolves had their assistant GM there. They had a scouting presence at the Jordan Brand Classic last week. We have the NBA draft order post-lottery settled. Did you see that the Wolves did lose a game this week, or lost something this week? I guess the game of who will pick 18th in the draft. They lost a coin flip. So Chicago gets pick 18. The Wolves get pick 19. The Wolves do jump Chicago in the second round. The Wolves have 3 draft picks in the second round. 4 picks total in June. So you think about, trade ammo, because it's hard for me to see that the Wolves are going to end up drafting 4 guys that are all here next season. So they'll either take a guy, stash overseas, but they may trade a pick or 2. Just something to keep an eye on. But the Wolves did lose that coin flip on Monday to Chicago. So the Wolves end up with pick 19 in the first round. Chicago has pick 18.
Great stuff, sir. We will talk to you for more scoopage on a Reckless Speculation Thursday.
Got it. And Byron Buxton, if not back in the lineup today, don't be shocked if he's back before this Royal Series is over. If it's not the Royal Series, in the lineup on Friday at Target Field. So thankfully, short-term injury, Buxton back this week.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan.
Okay, see ya.